My name's Kevin Holt. I work with a company called Canada Purple Shield, and we help Hamrys with their pre-arrangements. Candace Lucas is a Fort St. John. How many years? You were born in Fort St. John. No, you lived here.
No, I lived here since I was 10, and of course I'm only 29 now.
Yes.
30 years ago I moved to Prince George.
Okay. Bruce here. I don't know how that math works, but Candace does the cremation and burial pre-planning for Hamrys. And I believe Kim does as well, or will be. And so Purple Shield, what we do is we put on these workshops throughout the province. One time I was trying to get across a point at one of the workshops, a simple point, that we all have a day, right? And we don't know when that day will be. But I tried to do it in sort of a cheeky way. So I got my really serious face on and I said, last year in Saskatchewan, the death rate was 100%. And this person in the front row, this fellow, didn't quite get my lame attempt at humor, that we all die. And his eyes went this big, and he turned to his wife, he goes, "That seems awfully high." And then she turned to him and said, "It's a good thing we moved when we did." So, no more of that. I just try and tell it like it is. The outline for this morning is going to be a story we're going to tell you, true story, about 8 minutes, give or take. Then we're going to go through our booklet. That's the bulk of the workshop, and you're going to have a pen, and we're going to ask you questions, and it's kind of an interactive thing. That'll take about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Then we're going to do a unique drawing exercise that's quite unusual. And then we'll do a draw for a prize, which is right there. And finally, we'll open it up for questions. We don't do questions during the workshop. Anybody want to guess why? Takes too long. We love the questions. We know they're important. Some of you came here with one question in mind and that's it. But we found in the past when we allowed them during the workshop didn't end. And the people who had to leave at 11:30 or whatever, they had an agenda, they were very upset because they came and they missed part of it, and that wasn't fair. So out of respect for those of you with an agenda, you're going to have a question, I'm going to tell you to jot it down, and then at the end we'll take it. Does that sound fair? Okay, that's good. And sometimes, well, we'll leave that. Let's see what else. I think that's probably it. We might as well jump right in. So I'm going to go into the story. A recent retiree couple, Steve and Marilyn. It's actually in your handout, but don't try and follow, because I do the Reader's Digest version. And they were deciding what trip to go on. It was the big retirement trip. They bought a new Winnebago. They were either going to go to the Maritimes or the Grand Canyon. Marilyn won out. They decided to go to the Grand Canyon. And I'm going to jump ahead to probably the most difficult day in Marilyn's life, would be my guess. They had a regular routine. They'd drive for 4 or 5 hours, depending on how tired Steve got. They'd stop, have something to eat. He'd go for his walk. Always went for his walk. Well, this time, he wasn't back in about an hour and a half, and that was longer than usual. So Marilyn started to pace the trailer and stare out the window and pace the trailer. Then it was 2 hours, and she was beside herself. And she contemplated going out looking for him, and it was getting dark. But she didn't even see what direction he went, so she didn't think that would be useful at all. She finally phoned her daughter in BC, Joanne, just to get some support and vent. And Joanne said, "Mom, relax, relax. I'll call the local hospital, find out what they know." Well, it was a little one-horse town. There was no local hospital. But she had Google, so she Googled all the neighboring towns. She found 3 hospitals. And so it was a long hour wait for Marilyn by the phone, right? Phone finally rings, she's on it, and Joanne says, "Mom, none of the hospitals have anybody by Dad's name," which was a lie. But Joanne had to think fast, and she didn't know what to do. And she couldn't bear the thought of telling her mom that her husband had passed away and then leaving her alone in a trailer in a foreign country. That just didn't make sense to her. So she said, "Look, I'll come down, we'll figure out what to do." Beautiful daughter. She went to the airport, took a flight, rented a car, and then told her mom in person. They found out from a young grocery clerk. He came in to buy his chocolate milk, almost right when he started the walk, really. There was a loud noise, he collapsed, and the hospital later said it was a massive stroke. Now, I don't know if anybody here has ever had the misfortune of a loved one passing away in a foreign country, but even if you haven't, you can guess, right? Imagine what the next 3 to 5 days were like for Marilyn and Joanne. They were dealing with the coroner, the county sheriff, the hospital. They were paying bills, phoning relatives back home in BC. They were figuring out what to do with the Winnebago, talking to airlines, etc., etc. It was brutal. When they got back here, and I won't say what town they were from, they called the local funeral home and set up an appointment. And so there's Marilyn the next day in the funeral director's office. And she said afterwards the whole thing seemed unreal and even crazy. I said, why is that? She says, well, I was reeling from the week that we just had. And there I am answering questions involving thousands of dollars. She says, Steve and I, we never talked about this. We're in our late 60s. We didn't think we needed to get our ducks in a row or get our affairs in order. So she said, I knew we wanted cremation, but that's about all I knew. I didn't know what about a service or viewing or what to do with the ashes or whatever. She said, I felt like I was juggling in the dark. And then after, she said, I told them I wanted something simple but dignified. So they had that. They had a celebration of life. Have you guys ever heard of that term? Yeah, so there was a slideshow. It was really cool. There was no casket present. It was a typical celebration of life, but very good. Then afterwards, you'd think sort of the difficulty would be over at that point. Well, in some ways, it was just beginning. Joanne was named the executor, and Steve, this was a second marriage. He had 3 biological daughters that he did not name as the executor. But he named his stepdaughter, Joanne. Now that can be a red flag, can it? Like, what's going on in the family dynamic here? Joanne's never been an executor before, and she's a mom, she's a wife, she's an employee, she's a daughter. She's very busy. And so, okay, what do I do first? Well, she decides to close some cards out. Well, he's got 2 wallets bursting with cards, social insurance and driver's license. Now, I was the executor for my grandma about 25 years ago when I was 8. Shouldn't laugh that much. And I did a terrible job at closing cards out. I don't think I did anything. I was sloppy as all get out. And you know, it didn't really matter that much back then. Fast forward 2.5 decades, and it matters a whole bunch. Anybody want to guess as to why the difference over that time frame? Identity theft. Always been a crime, right? But back then it was on the fringes. It didn't happen too much. Now it's become an epidemic, and they will target your identity and mine when we pass away to try and steal as much as they can out of the estate. So very important that the executor, in this case Joanne, close those cards right away, especially the identifier ones like social insurance and that sort of thing, and credit cards. Then they heard a rumor that Steve had a bank account back in his hometown. Supposedly it had a number of thousands of dollars in it. Now, what do you do with a rumor, right? Anybody here know a couple where one of the spouses or partners knows all the financial comings and goings, but the other knows absolutely nothing? Anybody know anybody like that? Okay, it looks like there's a few people like that. Not that you know them, you are them. So it's kind of funny up until someone passes away. And if it's the financial guru that passes away, it actually is really, really difficult. So I always, at every seminar, I encourage people, please start blending that information now. Honestly, blend it now. Well, that was the case. Steve knew everything, Marilyn knew nothing. So here she is on the phone, phoning 15 to 20 banks and credit unions looking for something that may or may not exist. Same with a lot of your executives checking out safety deposit boxes at all the banks and credit unions in Fort St. John, and where you lived last, and where you lived before then, and even where you lived before then. It's a big goose hunt. So she's phoning all these places. She finds it. Oh, we got a bank that does have an account, $8,000 in it. What is Steve doing? Having a bank account in his hometown that's sort of secret with $8,000 in it. Well, we don't know. We can't ask him. But Marilyn goes to access it. They say, no, we're not giving you the money. She goes, oh yeah, my executor's got to ask. So Joanne goes to get the money. No, we're not giving it to you. Well, why not? I'm the executor. We're not giving it to you until you get probate. So Joanne has to figure out what probate is. She figures out how much it costs. She hands it to a lawyer to do and says, call me when you're done. Now, why do I tell you a story that isn't the most pleasant story or the most inspiring story? Well, I tell it to you for 2 reasons, besides the fact that it's true. Number 1 is sudden deaths in BC. I thought if they were 12% or 13% or 15%, well, you know, that is what it is. But I found out 42% of every death in British Columbia is sudden. Car accident, aneurysm, heart attack. And what does that mean? That means that it's a lot more difficult on our executors and our families, right? A lot more. That's one. Second reason is we want to learn from Steve and Marilyn. What did they do or not do that we can improve upon so that our executor's job and our family's experience is as stress-free as is possible? That's the goal of this morning. So if you can open up your handouts to the middle section where the staple is, and it says, Learning from Steve and Marilyn. Everybody's okay. That was to get a heart attack going for the theme of the morning. Paramedics come, live illustrations. Yes. Learning from Steve and Marilyn. Number one, we know from Steve's experience that he was diligent in getting everything ready for his possible journey. And when you read the story, you'll see how he got everything ready. But a bit complacent in getting ready for his inevitable journey, which we don't know where that is. Now, what's the population of Fort St. John? Between 23 and 35. So let's say 25,000. We got about 50 people here, so that means 24,950 people didn't come here this morning. Probably a good thing. Why do you think so many folks struggle with this topic? Why do you think it's a hard topic to tackle?
Denial.
Denial? Yeah, that's not happened to me. Bad things happen, but they always happen to
somebody else.
Yes.
The younger generation doesn't feel that they're needing to do any of this stuff because they're invincible.
Okay, so we're going to blame the younger generation. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. So I'm teasing, that's a joke, but I agree with you. A lot of younger people, they're not looking at their will. They might be 20, 30, 40. The younger generation could even be 45. And that's not happening to me. Exactly. Good point.
So a lot of them think that they're already prepared until something happens, and those they leave behind realize how unprepared they were.
Wow, you know, we've been doing this. How many workshops, Candace, have we had? Like literally 100 throughout BC. It's the first time I've heard that answer, and it's actually very true. We think we're all prepared. The death occurs. They never know because they're gone, and there's a lot of stuff yet to do. What's another reason? There's a couple more. Yes?
Lack of education of what the process is.
Yeah, and where do I start? You know, this thing can be a little bit complicated. And do I start with a lawyer or a notary or the funeral home or what's involved? Yeah, any more reasons?
Fear. Lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge and fear. Both of those are bang on. There's a whole bunch of reasons, isn't there? And then the big one, yes?
Financial strain.
Yeah. Is this going to cost money to look after all this stuff? Well, if it is, I'm tight. I got to pay the hydro bill. That's a very good point. All of these are excellent reasons. The biggest, of course, is the biggest nation in the world. Procrastination. Yes, yes. It's on the to-do list, right? I had one lady say to me, my husband said, let's get this done. I said, great, let's go right now. And he said, well, let's just wait till the spring. And then the spring came, and she thought, well, we should get this done now. He says, well, just, let's go in June or July. And I said, well, how long has this been going on for? This is no lie. She said, 22 years. So some people love to put it down on the priority list, right? The tyranny of the urgent. The urgent things, you know, thawing the pork chops, getting the lawnmower blades sharpened, those things that are crowding out the day, they crowd out the important things. So may I say congratulations to all you 50 Fort St. Johners who came out despite if you have any of those fears or denials or procrastinations. You came out, so good for you. Number 2. Steve never acquired a power of attorney or a representation agreement. A, if Steve had survived the stroke but was incapacitated, Marilyn would have been legally, and the word you want to write in there is unable. She would have been unable to make a whole bunch of decisions about Steve's financial or legal affairs. Some of us here this morning are under a misconception, and it's a bit dangerous. And that is that if something happened to me, you get dementia or a stroke or whatever, I got loved ones and they'll look after things, right? I got a son, a daughter, a spouse. No, they'll try to look after things and they'll be able to look after some, but there's some things they can't do. They can't change the insurance on your vehicle. They can't sell your vehicle. So what is it, just get frozen in time? No, you have to go to the dreaded 2B, and 2B is not pretty. She would have been forced to apply to the BC government for a committeeship at a cost of between, are you ready for this? $4,000 to $10,000. Compared to about $175 for a power of attorney. What is a committeeship? A committeeship is like an adult guardianship. It's the legal granting of authority for the BC government to one adult to be able to make decisions for another adult who's unable to. I was given this seminar in North Vancouver, and this fellow in the front row was nodding too enthusiastically. And I said, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? And he says, oh yeah. I said, do you mind sharing your story? He goes, sure. He says, my wife was diagnosed with early onset dementia. The doctors were shocked at the speed of the progression of the disease. He said, we didn't have a power of attorney, so we had to get that thing you're talking about. I said, a committeeship? He goes, yeah. I said, how much does that cost you so far? $6,000, he said. We just did a seminar last night in Dawson Creek, and we talked with a lawyer there, Michael Gilson. I says, have you heard much about this? He goes, I'm doing 3 committeeships right now. Compare that price to $175 for a power of attorney. So do you think we encourage people to get a power of attorney? Yes, we do. There's one of your first nuggets. Okay. Let's go down to C. Similar to a power of attorney, and the word you want to write in is representation. Representation agreement. Enables your representative to make routine financial legal decisions on your behalf, and it also specifies the future personal health care that you might want. How many folks here, we got 50 folks at least, how many people here know what a representation agreement is? Hands up high. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's more than most, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 people know out of 50 what a representation agreement is. So it's a 3-hour seminar. I'll condense it to 5 minutes if we can, okay? Representation agreement deals with your personal life and health care. So if you said to me, oh, Kevin, I don't care what happens to me when I get old, then first of all, I'd ask you, what does that mean when you get old? You know, the 60-year-olds mean when they're 70, the 70-year-olds mean when they're 80, and the 80-year-olds, the goalposts keep moving to define old, don't you think? And they do, and everybody I know. You probably don't need a representation agreement if you don't care what happens to you when you get old. But if you said to me, it's important to me when I can't make decisions, what home they put me in, what exercise regimen I'm on, what diet or food they give me, what they do with my pets, if I'm ever on radiation, all those decisions are important to me, and I'm not sure my family would make the decisions I want. Either their value system is different, or we have a bit of a strain in the relationship, or they're scattered throughout the globe, living all over the place, they're not close by. If that's your situation, if those things are important and you're not sure the family would follow through, then you need a representation agreement. I'm going to give you a good website where you can get forms and you can get information on representation agreements. The website is www.nidus, N as in Nancy, I as in India, D as in David, U as in Undertaker, sorry, S as in sorry, .ca. Okay, great site for anything about representation agreements that you need to know. Besides C, I'd like you to put the 2 things. One is RA7, write down RA7, and then put RA9. There's 2 representation agreements. Typical government thing, they didn't do 1 and 2, they did 7 and 9. We don't know where the missing representation agreement 8 is, but that's okay. Maybe it's in their desk somewhere lost. But the point is, representation agreement 9 includes the big question of do not resuscitate, pull the plug, end of life. RA9 includes that. RA7 covers all the other stuff, but doesn't include that one. So a lot of folks will choose a power of attorney with RA9. A power of attorney covers legal and financial, and the representation agreement covers health care. Okay, so representation agreement 9 covers the big question of do not resuscitate or end of life issues. Representation agreement 7 does not. So if you got questions about that, save them till the end. For powers of attorney, I just want to put a plug. There's 3 types, but I want to talk about the most important for us here this morning, and that's the enduring power of attorney. So there's no spot, but you can write that in on the side. Enduring power of attorney. That means it endures despite the medical condition. If you have a power of attorney that's not enduring, if you become incapacitated, that power of attorney ceases. It's no good. So you're going to want an enduring power of attorney. It endures despite the condition. So you want to make sure if you got one at home, check it out. Don't just look at the headline. Read into the text, and if it says endures despite a medical, you're okay. If it doesn't, think about getting a different one. Okay? Excellent. 3. Steve wasn't the most organized, and the executor, Joanne, found her task more than challenging. A gift to your executor is to have an up-to-date record of your belongings. A, what should we put in there? Yeah, well, everything is good. I was going to put what. So same diff. What you own, where it is, and who to contact. What you own, where it is, and who to contact. I would love it. Do you have a Staples here in Port St. John?
Yeah.
Okay. Make Staples happy. Go there and photocopy everything. Okay, well, what is it? I don't have that much, Kevin. It's not going to be much. You'd be amazed. Photocopy your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, your prenup agreement, your care card, your driver's license, your passport, your birth certificate, your social insurance number. Photocopy your bank account information, your RSPs, your insurances. Photocopy your property deeds, your subscription to TV Week, Hunting Monthly, Quilting biannually, Fishing every decade, whatever the magazines you have are, photocopy those, the memberships to the club, your Sears card, your Costco card, your Esso card, your passwords. Can you imagine being an executor nowadays with the passwords out there for the internet accounts and the cell phones? And so there's more than that. But photocopy everything and then put it in one spot, a file, an accordion file you buy at Staples, whatever it is. And when your executor comes home for the free laundry or dinner, you walk them by the hand and you take them to that box and you say, see this box here? They go, yeah. You say, when I go, and then they usually say, where are you going? And then you have to tell them, you know what I mean. And sometimes your kids will turn and walk away. They don't want to talk about you passing away. So sometimes you got to go get them. Sometimes you have to bribe them with a homemade Nanaimo bar or a bottle of scotch, whatever works. And you bring them back and you say, when I go, you look after what's in this box and you'll look after a big part of my estate. Folks, you know, you got stuff to do today. You took your time out to come here. If you do one thing as a result of this workshop and you photocopy everything and you centralize those photocopy documents and you tell your executor where they are, you'll have done a huge gift to your executor, a huge gift. Because what they tell us 3 months into the process or 6 months after the death, when they wake up at 3 in the morning, you know what's on their mind? Did I get everything? Especially with identity theft now. It's terrible. Did I get everything? Well, this really helps them. So if you can do that, that would be great. Okay, let's go down to D. 3D. Make sure your executor has a copy of your will. Everybody knows the right answer. How many people do you think have actually given their executor a copy of the will? Oh, a couple of good folks. Here's what I do. I write on the copy where the original is. Right on the cover page. The original is in the safety deposit box at Scotiabank. Or it's in the safe I bought at Staples. Or it's with my lawyer at this address. Or it's in the freezer next to the roast beef on the right-hand side. But you want to let them know, that does 2 things. It tells them the will they're holding is not the original, and sometimes that's helpful, and it tells them where the original is. Okay? Your executor is not going to come up to you and say, hey, Dad, I got an idea. Why don't we just sit down and get out the old will and just take a look at it tonight? What do you think? Even though that's a good idea, your executor is not going to do that. because it can be so easily misunderstood, right? You could say, well, what? Do I look pale? Are you having money problems? What's the sudden interest? What's the sudden interest in my will? You know something I don't know? And it can actually create, so you, Fort St. John will writers, you take the bull by the horns, you sit down with the executor, and you go over that will. And you give him a copy. Okay, let's go to E. The executor is legally responsible for funeral arrangements, true or false? True. How do you know that? Everybody else says false in a nice chorus. Okay, well, it's true, yes. I'm very impressed. Very good. Executive responsible for your funeral arrangements. F. If your estate is complex. What does that mean, complex? Yeah, so you got fights you know are going to happen. There's some black sheep in the family. You got property south of the border. You got property in a bunch of provinces. You own a business. You got a handicapped child, you know that a trust will have to be set up for them. You got a child, they're not handicapped, they just have gigantic holes in their pockets. And you know if you give them $600,000 that, you know, it's going to be a crazy day in the shopping district at Fort St. John the next day. And you'd rather drip the money to them slowly over the years instead of a tsunami of cash that buries their character. If your estate is complex, or you see difficulty in settling it, or if there's no suitable executor available, you can name a bank or credit union as your executor. Did you know that? A lot of folks didn't know that. And they're free. That was a joke. When is a bank ever free? But they do a good job. So you can name a bank or a credit union or a lawyer as your executor. Consult with them first. 4. The bank wouldn't release the funds to Joanne until she got probate. Probate is the process of the, what should we write in there? Government is close. I'm looking for a specific word.
Death certificate or something?
Bingo. Courts.
The what?
The courts. Probate is the process of the courts proving the will is legitimate. B. The financial institutions have the right. Very good. Authority or right. Both of those will work. To demand probate prior to releasing the deceased asset to the executor. Here's how it works. In your 60 years of living, and I'm being nice to some of you and rude to others of you, in your 60 years of living, you've accumulated people you love, and you've accumulated a bunch of stuff. So you wrote a will that tells all the people you love what kind of stuff they get. Then you named an executor in the will to make sure they carry out those wishes. Before that executor takes your stuff to give it to those you love, they got to go get it. You can't give it until they get it. And that's where you'll find out about probate. Your executor is going to go to, say, Scotiabank or a credit union to get the GICs or the savings account or whatever money's in there. And when they go to get that, they're going to hear one of two things. A, yeah, we'll give that to you. Do you want those in 20s or 50s? Or they're going to hear the second option, which is no, we're not, which is what Marilyn heard. No, or Joanne. No, we're not releasing this to you. We're not going to give it to you. So then your executor shows a death certificate from Hamry's, slides that over to the teller, and then takes the will and slides the will over to the teller to prove that they're the executor. Does the teller then hand over that money? No. How come? Will hasn't been proven yet. Does every estate or will need to go through probate? No. So why is this teller not handing over the money? She's seeing a death certificate and a will. Why is she not handing it over?
She has to do the check just to see what's owed on it.
That's partly right. That's right. And the other is, I like that answer. What's that?
Not a spouse.
Partly.
They don't have signing authority.
Yeah, but if the manager comes, the real issue is, and we danced around it, is the will itself. What if that will was written, say, a year ago, and another one was written a month later? Is the one that's there any good? No. Or what if that person at that teller wrote the will and just forged the signature? Does the teller know that? She doesn't know that. She hands over the $8,000. That person, even if they are the executor, whoever, that person goes to Hawaii. The beneficiaries get this, and what do they do to the bank? They sue the bank. So the teller's going to want to know that that will is legitimate. She's going to want to know that it's the real deal. And how do we know that? A nice legal letterhead? No, on our computers we could do that in 30 seconds, right? We know it from a court stamp. The stamp of probate. That stamp of probate, the courts, when they stamp that will, it's now been verified. Probate is the only process that verifies the will. And so when it's been probated, we know that that document is legit. Now the teller has to produce the funds because that executor is like the deceased in a sense. They have full authority over those funds. Now there's a little caveat in there, but we won't get into that. So I've had people say, Kevin, will my will need to be probated? Well, sometimes you can know in advance, yes, but most of the time, no. Do you know how you'll find out? Your executor's going to find out when they go to get the stuff. Why would you probate a will unless you had to? Right? There's no reason to. So when your executor goes to get the stuff, if they can get it, great, no probate. If they go to get it, they can't get that asset because they're saying we're not releasing it to you until you'll get that stamp. Then the executor goes, oh, I got to go get probate. I got to probate the will. They'll find out when they go to access your inheritance that you're giving. Does that make sense? Okay? I'm not saying is that right. I'm saying did I communicate it semi-clearly? If I didn't, jot it down and ask that later, okay? Okay, how much does that cost? 4C, probate fees vary by province. In BC, they work out to 68% of your estate. Good Lord. Okay, no. Okay, don't get mad at me. Okay, that was just to test if anybody's sleeping here this morning. And nobody's sleeping clearly. As a matter of fact, that was the most angry response I've heard all throughout BC. You guys do not like the government up here, that's my guess. 68%. Good Lord, that was a great response. 1.4. That's a little better, isn't it? 1.4, but people still don't like that 1.4. Here's a math quiz for you. You got a $500,000 estate. You're going to have to probate your executor will, 1.4% on 500 grand. How much are we giving the government in a probate fee? Sorry? 7,000. Very good. Are you a math teacher? Accountant. There you go. 7,000. That's a little better than a math teacher. Nobody likes giving the government that 7,000 bucks, right? In Canada, we pride ourselves, unlike the States, we have no inheritance taxes, and we don't. If you got $1 million and you give that to your kids, no tax on that. There's no limit on gifting in BC. There's some other issues, but no limit on gifting. But the government erased the TAX and slipped in FEE, and they got us. In Edmonton, you know, some of the houses in Vancouver, right? They're spending $35,000 on a probate fee. Isn't that amazing? Now, that same house in Edmonton, you know what the probate fee is there? $400. The most you can spend in Alberta on probate, the max, is $400. So, if you got any Scottish blood in you, the night before you go, move to Edmonton. Don't go 2 nights in advance, because then you have to stay there one night for nothing. Sorry to the Alberta people. Okay, D. There are no probate fees. That's a nice part of the question, right? There's no probate fees on jointly owned items. Jointly owned items. There's also no probate fees on estates valued at under $25,000. No probate fees on items on jointly owned items. So people love that. They jointly own their bank account. They jointly own their car, investments, their principal residence, their house. They jointly own everything they can. All of that is now outside the estate. So it's nothing to do with the will. So they don't have to probate it because we know where it goes to. If I got a name on my house and I die, another name, joint ownership with right of survivorship, then when I die, it goes to the other person's name. We don't have to look to the will to see where it goes. We look at the document, the land titles document, right? So it doesn't matter if the will is legit or illegit because it's not given through the will. It's given through a different document. And the second line on D is items with a named beneficiary. Candace will be going around checking everybody's spelling of the word beneficiary, so no gluten-free donuts if it's misspelled. And that's your RSPs, your RIFs, your tax-free savings account, which everybody here has one. And if you don't, please go get one tomorrow. Tax-free savings account. It should be called the tax-free investment account, right, Candace? You don't just put money in there to sit there. You can put investments in there. And if your life insurance has as the beneficiary your estate, when you die, the money's going to go to the estate. Your executor's going to go to get it. No, they're not going to be able to touch it because probate's going to be required. But if instead of estate you have a named beneficiary, my son Mark, my daughter Louise, then when you die, the money goes straight to Mark, straight to Louise. Right? No probate. E, all real estate in BC that is solely owned. Solely is the word you want to write in there. Solely owned will require probate. Not might, not may, not could, will. You own 1/100th of an apartment. It will need probate. The only way around that is through a trust. And I'll put a little plug in here for the experts in trusts. How are we doing for time? What time do you have?
22:11.
22:11, we started at 10. Oh, we're doing good. Did it say in the ads this goes till 2?
You'll need more donuts.
Quick, Kaylee, go to Dimmy's. Okay. So let's just do a little rant. So trusts are great. Trusts can be good. If you're a middle class, if you've got very little money, lower class, lower economic status. That's the better way of putting it, Kevin. You can be high class, but lower economic status. If you've got lower economic status, trust's probably too expensive. Middle economic estate value and up, trusts can be great. They can avoid probate. Eliminate that. They can minimize taxation. They can make sure that in a blended family, the house goes to the original kids, not the step kids. Sometimes that's a brutal mistake people make. And they can avoid wills challenges. BC has more wills challenges than any other province in the country. And that's a lot of disgruntled BC beneficiaries. Well, if it's given through a trust, challenge the will all you like, you can't challenge the trust. You can do other things, but it minimizes the chance of that. So trusts can be very good. A notary can't do a trust. You can't do a trust on your own. You do a trust through a lawyer. Okay? So give some thought to that. I want to give a little blurb about the wisdom of using the experts. So it's my little 2-minute rant. It's not as good as a Rick Mercer rant. But it's a free seminar, so I don't care. Use the experts. A good tax accountant in Fort St. John. If there isn't a good one, you go to Dawson. If there isn't, you go to Prince. A good tax accountant is, I talked to a tax accountant in Coquitlam, young sharp lady, a little while ago. I said, if I sat down for an hour and threw a bunch of questions about my estate your way, how much would you charge me? She said, $375. Now, I don't like that hourly rate myself. She said, well, we do half-hour consultations for free. I said, can I get 2 of those? She said, no. But here's the thing. $400 spent now can save your estate $4,000. Just like that. $1,400 spent now with a good tax accountant, a good lawyer, a good financial planner who specializes in transitioning, not just making money, but transitioning the estate, can save your estate $40,000. Like that. But there is so many people who aren't frugal, they cross the border into that other land. Anybody want to know what that other land is called? Cheap. Yes, cheap and stupid. Frugal is good, cheap and stupid, not so good. And so there's a lot of people that have crossed from frugal to cheap, and how much those guys charge? $375? That's a bunch of BS. I'll figure out how to do this on the internet. Oh, is that Canadian? Is that American? How come that site disagrees with that site? Oh, gosh. I'll go to that workshop at Hammers. Oh, let's get that book at the library. And research is good, but cheap and stupid, not so good. So use the experts. There is too much money going to Ottawa and not enough going to kids because people are winging their estate transition from hearsay and Uncle Ralph's plan and the guy sitting next to them at Tim Hortons. Okay, there's my rant. Stick to it. Okay, let's go down to F. Beware of jointly owning your assets with an adult child, not a spouse, that's easier, but an adult child. You're placing your asset in jeopardy. Okay, so I got my house in Mission. It's worth $500,000. Started out at $250,000, so it's grown. I don't like the probate. 1.4% seems high to me. So I'm just painting a picture. I'm not saying that's true. So I get my son Nathan. Get your name on my house. That way, when I die, it goes to you. Voids probate. Yes, we got a plan. How am I jeopardizing my house when I do that?
Nathan can take it.
Pardon me?
Nathan can take your house if he wants.
Can he take my house? No, he can't take my house.
He could use it.
He can use the asset.
Yes, he can take a loan. Did I hear loan? He can take a loan out on it. Does he need my permission?
No.
No. Okay, that's one. What's another way?
You can get divorced.
Divorce. Nathan marries a girl. She's got the purple hair and the dog collar. Not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Marriage is going great for the first 2-3 weeks. And all of a sudden, the waves of discontent are thrashing about, and they're going to get divorced. My house is in jeopardy, possibly. That's a real concern. What's another one?
He might sell half his share.
What's that?
He might sell his share of the house.
Well, and one of the things is he has, you forfeit, or I do when I do this, our autonomy. I talked to a guy in Cranbrook. He had 4 sons, pretty good family, not a kumbaya family, but pretty good family. No one knows what happened to one of the sons. I mean, he wanted to he didn't want to appear to be picking favorites, so he put all 4 names on the title for joint ownership. Didn't like the probate idea. Went to sell 5 years later. 3 of the sons, of course, Dad, they were ready to sign. 1 said no. He stopped everything. They don't know why. They don't know what's happened. It's been 5 years that the dad's living in a house that he doesn't want to live in because of one holdup, because he forfeited his autonomy over his asset. You think Christmas dinners are going pretty good over there? Not very good, right?
And what happens if he dies before you?
And there's other issues like that. So there's all sorts of, and the whole intent of the will. You've done a do-it-yourself will, which I don't recommend, but some people do. You got your will, sell the house, split it 3 ways with my 3 kids, right? But then 5 years later, you heard a thing about avoiding probate with joint ownership with right of survivorship. Does anybody see a conflict there? Nobody sees a conflict? The conflict is the will talks about what to do with the house, but when you did that joint ownership with right of survivorship, there's no house in the estate. When you die, who owns it? The other joint owner. So the will can say whatever it wants to say. It's irrelevant what it says about the house because there is no house. When the death occurred, the house went to this guy. It's not in the estate. If he doesn't want to sell it, he doesn't have to. So there's a lot of issues. Never mind bankruptcy. My son starts a business. He goes bankrupt. They sue him. My house is jeopardized. So I want to give you my opinion. This is just an opinion. 50 folks here. My guess is for 47 or 48 of us, jointly owning our principal residence with an adult child to avoid probate will be the dumbest thing we've done in 20 years. Putting at risk a very valuable asset. For some of us, our biggest. For 2 or 3 of us, smart idea. I don't know who you are, but somebody might have 1 kid, they're not married, never will be, or they're married and it's definitely kumbaya and you feel confident they're going to be there together forever. That's a tough one, or you're okay with risk. You don't have a problem with risk. All I know is that some people have jointly owned their house with their child and it worked. So I can't stand up here and tell you, like most lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, but most lawyers at all the workshops I've been to have said never ever do it. How can I say that when I know it's worked a few times? But be careful. Fair enough? You do it, you got to do it with your eyes wide open. Okay, let's move down. Number 5. Marilyn sat across the desk from the funeral director still feeling numb. A. Pre-planned cremations or burials are rapidly growing in popularity. Across the US and Canada, approximately 2,000 people a day are talking to the Candaces of this world saying, let's get this cremation or this burial plan. Why is it growing so much?
Create what?
Because the salesman is up in front of the officer.
Okay, I don't know if I want to ask you to repeat that. No, I don't? Okay, because I didn't hear it, honestly, but it sounded like it was a juicy one. Okay, any other guesses?
You get what you want for your funeral, for all of the arrangements there. You pay what you're willing to pay. You leave no burden on your survivors.
Wow. Bingo. You get what you want. You're not putting a burden of them guessing as a committee. Can you imagine some of our families making a group decision is hard enough when we're all thinking clearly with the differences we bring to the table. You add grief to that. You add intense emotion to that, and now you're having the discussion. Wow. You get what you want, there's less of a burden, and you pay what you want. You don't have kids wondering, shouldn't we buy this casket for Mom because she deserved it? Well, no, she would have wanted it cheaper. Yeah, but that doesn't look right. All of those things that can be so difficult. It's here's what Mom wanted. Done. Period. End of story. Very good. I think that sums it up. Usually we go on and ask a bunch of stuff, but that was a very concise answer. Okay. C. While grief expressed leads to healing. That's a unique sentence. Or phrase, isn't it? While grief expressed can lead to healing, grief that's suppressed, stuffed down, not allowed to manifest, can lead to depression. Exactly. Be careful of handcuffing family with unhealthy demands. How do you handcuff? Well, in my experience in 25 years of doing this, it's usually not the ladies. So ladies, you don't have to, you can tune out, think about your golf game, dinner tonight, whatever. Men, we handcuff too much. Not all of us, but we handcuff too much. And how do we do that? Because when you put the handcuffs on, there's no key. There's no key. There's a key when you're alive, because you can undo them. But when we die, there's no key. And we handcuff by saying things, well, I don't want nothing. As soon as we say, I don't want nothing, we've got the handcuffs on. And if we die, like that 42%, like Steve did, we're suddenly gone, the spouse or the kid or the brother or whoever's looking after things has a very unenviable task to decide, was Dad joking? Was he being flippant, his old flippant self, he's kind of gruff, or was he serious? And that's a very difficult question to answer. And then there's pressure from other family members. We want to honor Dad. We want to celebrate Dad's life. Well, he said, handcuffs are on tight. Right? He said, yeah, but, and I've heard people say, you break what he said. You go against it for the benefit of the living. Because when we die, guys, it's not about us, right? It's not for us. That little gathering doesn't have to be religious or doesn't have to be expensive, but that little gathering is for everyone else, for the living. So I've heard people say you definitely go against his wishes, and that's what we did with Dad, and it was fine. And I've had other people angry at that, saying you honor the person who's passed away, you honor their wishes, and you let everyone else struggle with the reality. So that's a little debate at a coffee shop. Imagine it in the funeral home office having that discussion. Wow. So no handcuffing. Even no viewing. I don't want anybody looking at me. I don't want anybody looking at me. Well, that's a handcuff. I got 3 sons in their early 20s. I don't have a clue if they want to see me when I go. I mean, if they're all around the hospital bed, they might not want to see me, right? They said goodbye. Or if there's hoses and tubes coming out of everything and my hair is disheveled and I just look terrible, they may not want that last picture as the one that's ingrained in their psyche. They may want to see me resting, quote unquote, in a casket. I don't know that. You don't know that. You can ask your kids right now, would you want to view me when I go? And they'll look at you and they might slap you upside the head. What the heck are you asking me that stupid question for? They don't know the answer to that. But when you go, when I go, that's when it counts. Does one of my sons need to say goodbye? Did we have an argument? Did they not see me for 3 months because they went on a trip and then they came back and they need to see me to have it sink in for reality? Or they need to say something. I don't know that. So when we say we handcuff, leave it open. All you want is for them to be healed, right? When you go, for us guys and ladies, right? All of us, when we go, we just want them to go from brokenness and grief to wholeness and some joy as fast as they can. That's all we want. So whatever it does to get there, use it, do it. You need closure. Okay, I'm preaching to the choir. Let's move on. D. We'll skip down D. I'm just going to give you, you can read it at home. I'm just going to give you the answers. So the first line in D is probate, and the second line is frozen. Okay? First line is probate, second line is frozen. Okay, I want to do a little diagram, then we're going to do a drawing, okay, and then we're going to have questions. So, this is me, not you, it's me. Okay, that's I passed away. Down here, probate. That can take a month, that can take 2, it can take 12 months. Depends on how busy the probate registry is, that sort of thing. In this time, let's say it's 5 months, that's the hardest 5 months for the executor. It's the most intense. Because the grief is intense, and there's decisions that need to be made quickly over those 5 months, and there's bills that need to be paid quickly over those 5 months. The interesting thing is that in many estates, the assets are frozen. But the bills are not. So, Hydro might send a bill for the house. There could be a strata fee. There could be a rent for that next month because things aren't going to be shut down immediately. There's all these bills that keep coming, but there can be a difficulty in terms of accessing that. So who looks after that? Well, the executor does, and oftentimes out of their own pocket, and sometimes through a credit card, to be reimbursed months later. Doesn't have to happen that way. Nowadays, when you have a funeral plan, the old days, that funeral plan covered one expense. A check went to the funeral home. That was it. And that was good. That was helpful, for sure. But nowadays, this one plan can look after 2 important expenses. One plan, 2 important expenses. A check can go to the funeral home, and a separate check to the executor to look after some of these bills that the estate will incur as they settle things. It's a really cool system. One goes to cover the cremation or burial, another check goes to the executor for those costs. So very nice in terms of making sure nobody's using their own pocket to cover those. Okay, turn to the back page if you could for our drawing exercise. It'll say drawing on the top. Okay. Okay, in the middle is a circle, not too big, not too small. In the middle of the circle are 5 rectangles of any size, anywhere, but they're in the circle. At the top of the circle is our first stick man. Or as I was scolded in downtown Vancouver, stick person. Yes, can you believe that? Well, we think it's a stick man because he's got a top hat and he's got a little bow tie. Is my drawing that bad?
Long hair on mine because it's.
Okay, up in the top left hand corner is another stick person. This one's a bit unique. In Dawson, they said he was wearing a dress, but it's actually wings, not even a cape. Okay, so those are my bad wings. And if you're feeling good about yourself this morning, like you woke up with a good self-esteem, you can put a little halo at the top. The plot thickens, doesn't it? Is the plot thickening? Okay. Now we're going to do a little cheesy exercise. We're going to do a group inhale, exhale. So on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was your last breath. You've all just died. That was easy. May it be that easy. What you're looking at is the table at the local funeral home that your family's going to gather at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. At the top is the funeral director. The 5 rectangles represent all the documents that are going to need to be filled in and all the questions that are going to need to be answered. In some cases, you, up in the left-hand corner, sporting a nice new set of wings. In some cases, you may be the only one who knows the answer to those questions, but there is a lack of communication happening here. What's not on my drawing around my table is who's there, like my family. So if they don't predecease me, I have probably 4 that will be there. I have my wife, Arlene, who is my executor, and I have 3 sons, as I've mentioned, who will be sitting around that table. Now, what I'd like you to do is to write down on yours who's sitting around your table. For some of you, it's just one person. Could be a brother. For some of you, it's a whole bunch. Okay, what I'd like you to do is I'm going to ask some questions. They're not really for answers. They're just for us to contemplate, okay, and for you to think about when you drive home today. We know there's a lot of emotion in this room, sitting around this table. In these people that you've got listed, do they share the same religious views of each other? And do they share the same religious view or value system, if there's no religious view, of you? Do they know exactly what you want? Not just with cremation or burial, but do they know about what to do with the ashes, or if there's a reception, or if there's going to be an open mic, that kind of stuff? Does one of these have a lot of money and the others not so much? And will they look to the one with money and expect maybe they pull more than their share? And could that create conflict? Is one of these people the quiet type? They just go along with everything, even though inwardly they burn, but they get trampled on by a more aggressive sibling. Folks, in our experience, death is almost always messy and often traumatic, even when it's expected. Even when it's expected. When you get the call, it's like a punch in the gut. And when there's no plan, we accentuate the possibility of that conflict and that pain. This is not the time to be making a bunch of decisions like Marilyn and Joanne did sitting around that table when they had just lost Steve. It is not the time. Picture the alternative. This person, I put in Arlene, whoever you put in, they walk in, they say to the director, I think my mom or dad or husband or wife did something a few years ago, can you check? The director goes around to the back, comes back with a file in their hand, and they say, yeah, your mom, your dad came in here about 7 years ago. Says here they want cremation. Says here no viewing, but if the family needs it, that's fine. So they didn't lock anybody in. Says here they want a real party down at the golf club. It's all looked after. It's all paid. We just need a signature. How does that person feel at that moment? How do they all feel? I mean, they're all like, oh, right? Folks, this morning we wanted to motivate you to get a copy of your will to your executor, to use the experts if you have a middle estate or higher, to photocopy all your documents and centralize them, to get a power of attorney, preferably an enduring power of attorney, and to pre-arrange your cremation or your burial. All those are gifts to your executor. They're gifts. If you don't know when they'll be open, they're wrapped, there's a ribbon. You don't want them open now, you don't want them open tomorrow. But when they're open, tomorrow or 20 years from now, I'm 57. I don't know if, we don't know. But when they're open, you know what these people are saying about the person who gave the gift. Okay. Little tiny, if you'll permit me, 2 minutes of pom-pom waving for Candace and Hamries. Just 2 minutes. If you wanted to get a pre-arrangement of some kind, here's what Candace will do. She will sit with you either here at the funeral home or at your kitchen table, whatever's most convenient. Do up a pre-arrangement, bring it to the funeral home, no cost. The goal is to make your executor's job easier. So if money was an issue, not a problem. If you wanted to freeze the cost, which is very nice for the estate, she'll show you the options. There's a 3-year plan, a 5, a 10. If you're on a tight budget, there's a plan that can make freezing that cost work for you and for your executor and your family. And make sure there's a little fund in there for your executor too. So there's all kinds of plans. If you just wanted to find out stuff, what does it cost? What's the rules of the road for scattering ashes? You just want to find out stuff, she'll sit and answer those questions. There's no obligation. This funeral home will be here 30 years from now, like it's been here for many decades. It's important they treat everybody properly, and that's the way you'll be treated. So if you can fill in you have like a seminar action evaluation page there. You see that? It looks like this. And everybody that Candace meets gets a gift. I'm going to just show it to you briefly. It's a 24-page book. And in the book, it lists things like where your information is, where your, what banks you're with, where your safety deposit box is. All those papers, they're in this book. It also lists your funeral wishes, the people to contact. All that stuff will be left with you free. So that's going to be given to everybody that she meets. Okay? So if you can fill that form in for the draw, and if you wanted Candace to help you with that, there's a question there you can check yes. And then we'll do questions after the draw. Hey, Candace. Candace, do you have a basket for when they... Oh, great, or a box. And when you're done filling it in, if you could fold it in half, and then we'll all have the same chance of winning the draw prize.